The plankton that saw it all. A scientist named Marco Coulin from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution decided to do something crazy. He did not want to look for physical fossils. He wanted to look for ghosts, specifically the genetic ghosts of the past. You see, when things die in the ocean, they leave behind a genetic fingerprint. It is called the paleome. Think of it like a crime scene. Even if you move the body, the DNA stays on the carpet. The bottom of the Black Sea is the carpet. Coulin and his team started drilling. They pulled up long tubes of mud, cutting through layers of time. They were looking for plankton. Now I know what you are thinking. Plankton, who cares about fish food? But listen closely. Plankton are the ultimate snitches of the natural world. They are highly sensitive. If the water gets a little bit hotter, they change. If the water gets salty, they die. So by looking at the DNA of these tiny creatures, the team could build a perfect timeline of the last 11,000 years. And what they found was shocking. The DNA showed that the Black Sea was not always a sea. For a long time, it was a giant freshwater lake. It was completely cut off from the salty Mediterranean Ocean. It was a paradise. Imagine a lake the size of California, surrounded by lush green prehistoric farmland. But then the data shifts. The DNA signature changes violently. Somewhere around 9,000 years ago, the marine connection was hindered. The Black Sea was functioning as a giant lake. The researchers used a high-tech method called pyrosequencing. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but basically it allows them to read millions of DNA sequences at once. They found that 150 specific species of plankton reacted to a massive environmental shift. It wasn't a slow trickle. It was a shock to the system. The team analyzed sediments containing organic compounds called alkanones. These are produced by a specific type of organism. By looking at the hydrogen isotopes in these compounds, they could map the saltiness of the water. One isotope, called deuterium, acts like a marker. Higher deuterium means higher salt, and the chart went off the charts. This confirms what some controversial geologists have been screaming about for decades. The Black Sea didn't just slowly fill up with rainwater, it was assaulted. The leading theory is that as the Ice Age ended, the glaciers melted. The world's oceans rose. The Mediterranean Sea rose until it was sitting high above the Black Sea basin. For a while, a natural dam at the Bosphorus Strait held the water back. It was like a bathtub holding back the entire Atlantic Ocean. And then, the dam broke. We are talking about a waterfall 200 times more powerful than Niagara Falls. 40 cubic miles of water pouring in every single day. The roar would have been deafening. The mist would have covered the sun. But here's where the DNA gets really interesting. The study shows that freshwater green algae were the dominant species more than 9,000 years ago. It was a stable freshwater ecosystem. Then, suddenly, marine invaders appear. Dinoflagellates and other saltwater critters show up in the DNA record. This confirms the pulse, the moment the ocean breached the wall. But why does this matter to you? Because of who was living on the shores of that lake. This was the Neolithic era. The Stone Age was ending. Humans were just learning how to farm. They were building the first settlements. They were living on the edge of this massive freshwater lake because it was perfect for crops. It was the cradle of civilization, and in a matter of weeks, their world ended. The DNA evidence proves the environment flipped. The water level rose by hundreds of feet. If you were living on that beach, you didn't have time to pack. You ran. This is the lost population that historians struggle to track. We see a sudden spread of farming into Europe right around this time. For years, we thought it was just natural migration. But the Black Sea DNA suggests something darker. They weren't exploring. They were refugees. They were running from the water that was chasing them up the hills. The Woods Hole team found that the most drastic changes in the plankton occurred rapidly. Salinity spiked. The freshwater species vanished, their DNA locked in the mud like a frozen scream. In their place, marine fungi and copepods took over. This isn't just a science report, it is a record of a catastrophe. The DNA was preserved even in the oldest sediments. This means the Black Sea is a unique archive. It remembers everything. And what it remembers is a flood so massive that it likely scarred the collective memory of the human race forever. When you hear stories about a great flood, about a man building a boat, or a civilization swallowed by the sea, you have to wonder, are these just stories, or are they the distorted memories of the people who survived this exact event? The science says the water rushed in, the DNA says the life in the lake died out instantly, and the timeline matches the sudden disappearance of settlements along the old shoreline. But this discovery opens up a whole new can of worms. If the DNA can reveal the plankton, what else is trapped in that mud? The team is only scratching the surface. They found genetic material from species that don't leave fossils. Soft-bodied things, things that dissolve. This implies that the Black Sea floor is a library of genetic material from the last 11,000 years, and we have only read the first page. So here is the deal. We know the flood happened. We know it was fast. We know it wiped out the freshwater ecosystem. But the real mystery is what happened in the chaos of that transition. Because when you look at the map, the old shoreline is hundreds of feet underwater. That means the villages, the graveyards, and the secrets of that lost population are still down there. And the DNA is just the breadcrumb trail leading us to them.